There are few films that have burrowed quite so deep into our collective psyche as The Exorcist. It didn't just scare people. It really changed how many of us even think about demonic possession. Those images, the head spinning, everything. They're unforgettable. So today, we're doing a deep dive into something pretty fascinating, the potential science behind all that chilling stuff. We're going to look at the film, deconstruct its horror, compare it to the real case that supposedly inspired it, and then see how those symptoms might map onto modern medicine, neurology, psychiatry. Okay, so let's try and unpack this. See what might really be going on underneath it all. In the film, you see Regan MacNeil go through this awful transformation, right? It starts subtly, loss of control, vomiting. Then it just ramps up into these, seemingly impossible things. The head spin, that creepy spider walk, levitation, incredible strength, hurting yourself, the voice. The film kind of suggests that the demon is the symptoms almost.
Yeah, the cinematic version is incredibly powerful. But what's really fascinating is looking at the real-life case it was based on, the Roland Doe case. The actual documented events were different. There were things like scratching sounds, furniture moving on its own, the boy's bed shaking violently, and welts appearing on his skin, sometimes spelling out words like Louis or even hell. But here's the crucial part. The priest who was actually there, Father William Bowdern, he explicitly stated that the really famous stuff from the movie, levitation, the head spinning, that projectile vomiting, he said none of that happened while he was present.
Wait, really?
Yeah. William Kidder Blatty, the author, he significantly embellished the story. He drew from various psychological conditions, really, to craft the narrative. It's brilliant fiction, but not, a documentary.
Wow. Okay, so the pea soup, the 360 head turn, that was Blatty's imagination, not from the actual case files.
Yes.
That really shifts how you think about the whole based on a true story angle. But it makes you wonder then, can science explain even the things that did apparently happen? Or the stuff in the movie that maybe wasn't just pure fiction? This is where it gets really interesting for me.
Absolutely. And yes, many of the symptoms, even the more extreme ones from the film and some from the Roland Doe case, have really compelling potential explanations in neurology and psychiatry. For instance, there's something called anti-NMDAR encephalitis. It's relatively newly recognized. It's an immune condition where basically your own body attacks your brain cells. And the symptoms, bizarre behavior, sudden personality shifts, agitation, hallucinations, delusions, problem speaking, and significantly something called opisthotonos. It's this extreme posture where the back arches incredibly, head and heels bending back.
Whoa.
It creates a really striking visual parallel to movements like the spider walk in the film.
Hold on. So that iconic spider walk, that might actually mirror a real physical symptom from a specific brain condition. Unsettling and fascinating. What else? Are there other conditions that could look like this?
Well, yeah. We should also look at the dissociative spectrum. There's something called dissociative trance disorder, PTD. It's where someone feels their identity is replaced by, an external possessing force. To them, it feels utterly real, like something else is in control. And then there's dissociative identity disorder, DID. That's characterized by having two or more distinct personality states, often with different voices, mannerisms. Culturally, these experiences are sometimes described as possession, but clinically, the diagnosis requires these states to be involuntary, unwanted, and not part of, say, an accepted cultural or religious practice. And briefly, conditions like schizophrenia, delusions of being controlled, or hearing voices interpreted as demonic or even severe manic episodes, which can involve unusual strength and bizarre actions, can sometimes present symptoms people might mistake for possession.
Okay, these explanations cover a lot, especially the behavioral and some physical aspects, but what about the stuff that seems purely paranormal, like Reagan floating off the bed? Or that crazy strength? Is there any scientific basis for that?
That's a really important distinction, the difference between extreme symptoms and, physically impossible events. Levitation, for example. From a physics standpoint, for an object, any object, to lift off the ground unsupported, you need a specific, measurable upward force. Think magnetic, electrostatic, aerodynamic. Something real has to counteract gravity. The way it's shown in the film, just floating without any visible force. That's physically impossible. Movie magic.
Right. No hidden wires in reality.
Exactly. Now, hysterical strength is a bit different. There's the central governor theory. Basically, in extreme stress, like fight or flight situation, adrenaline can help bypass the brain's usual limits on muscle exertion. So people can display unusual strength briefly. But it usually comes at a cost of torn muscles, severe strain. It's not superhuman, just pushing biological limits.
Okay. And the speaking in tongues.
Usually we differentiate between glossolalia, which is making sounds, often repetitive, not forming a real language, and seems linked to certain psychological states, maybe reduced frontal lobe activity, and xenoglossy. That's the claim of speaking a real language you've never learned,
Yeah.
which remains unverified scientifically.
So it sounds like the most dramatic, impossible stuff was movie invention. But the underlying reality, whether it's Roland Doe or Reagan's fictional portrayal, points towards real, profound human distress. How does the scientific view change how we should think about possession more broadly, like culturally?
That's a key point. Belief in possession isn't niche, it's global. It's considered a cultural-bound phenomenon found in roughly, 74% of society studied. Historically, it was often the framework for understanding madness or severe mental illness before modern psychiatry. And interestingly, belief seems to be surging again in some places, perhaps tied to modern anxieties and uncertainties. Ethically, the direction now is towards collaboration. Even the Catholic Church's official protocols for exorcism require a thorough medical and psychiatric evaluation first to rule out underlying illness.
That's crucial.
It is. The push is for medical and religious communities to work together where appropriate, integrating a person's spiritual beliefs with clinical care for their overall well-being.
So, The Exorcist. Still a masterpiece of horror fiction, absolutely terrifying. But it seems that truly unsettling elements, the things that feel most viscerally real, often have compelling evidence-based explanations in neurology, psychology, medicine. The core issue, it turns out, isn't really about demons and spirits, but about deep human suffering that needs understanding and care. So, thinking about this idea of collaboration, of science and spiritual belief, maybe finding common ground to help people in profound distress. How might you, listening now, rethink complex human experiences that don't fit neatly into boxes? What other questions does this kind of perspective open up for you?